welcome back to my channel. My name is Eliana and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're continuing on in our John study and we're going to finish up chapter 4. I am so sorry about forgetting to post yesterday. I completely forgot I had a YouTube channel, if I'm being honest, and that's kind of embarrassing. I also was busy yesterday, so it's not all on that forgetting. But we are continuing on, and I do have a video for Friday. I filmed a video for last Friday. I just, again, forgot I had a YouTube channel, which I have no idea how you do that. So, without further ado, grab your Bibles and let's turn to John 4:43. After 2 days, he left there for Galilee. Jesus himself had testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. When they entered Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him because they had seen everything he did in Jerusalem during the festival, for they also had gone to the festival. He went again to Cana of Galilee, where he had turned the water into wine. There was a certain royal official whose son was ill at Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had come from Judea into Galilee, he went to him and pleaded with him to come down and heal his son, since he was about to die. Jesus told him, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you will not believe." "Sir," the official said to him, "come down before my boy dies." "Go," Jesus told him, "your son will live." The man believed what Jesus said to him and departed. While he was still going down, his servants met him, saying that his boy was alive. He asked them at what time he got better. "Yesterday, at 1 PM, the fever left him," they answered. The father realized this was the very hour at which Jesus had told him, "Your son will live." So he himself believed, along with his whole household. Now this was also the second sign Jesus performed after he came from Judea to Galilee. So in this final part of chapter 4, we see Jesus go back to Galilee, and we see his second sign, which is healing an official's son. This is the second sign in John. So like always, we're going to just zoom into some parts of this chapter to get a better view of what this whole thing is about. The first section is verses 43 through 45. My Bible titles this A Galilean Welcome. So Jesus goes back from Samaria to Galilee. If we remember, he's traveling from Judea to Galilee and he passes through Samaria. So he has just ended, talking with his Samaritans and traveling, and he's going into Galilee. And he says that Jesus himself had testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. Jesus is from the Galilee area. He was raised there. And so when it's like a prophet has no honor in his country, obviously these people welcome him, but they're not honoring him as the Son of God. They're welcoming him because they heard about what he did and all the signs he did, and they're familiar with him, and they're not showing him the proper honor and respect that he deserves. It's kind of like when you grow up with like your childhood friends, right? And then one of those people grows up and becomes president or like a huge CEO. You're like, I still remember you when we were in elementary school. And you don't show them that same honor and respect that people that didn't grow up with him do, It also says, because they had seen everything he did in Jerusalem during the festival, or they also had gone to the festival. So these signs, it could have been like when Jesus flipped the tables in the temple, or when he foretells that the temple is going to be destroyed, but he's also like kind of foretelling his own death and resurrection. So they're kind of like, oh my goodness, what's he gonna do now? There's not, wow, this is the Son of God. It's more like, this is a spectacle to see. That's kind of the vibe that they're giving off. Verses 46 through 47 kind of give us the zoomed in setting. So we know it's in Galilee. Specifically, this is happening in Cana of Galilee. And this is the same place where Jesus had turned water into wine. So he's performed a sign here already. And an official comes to him. This official probably would have been under King Herod and would have been like a nobleman. So an official is coming to Jesus. An official is from Capernaum, which is about 20 miles away from where this is happening right now. He comes to Jesus because his son is sick and he believes that Jesus can heal him, and so he goes out of his way to contact this guy, or contact Jesus, and do it. So we see like his nobleman title, his royal officer title doesn't mean anything when your kid is sick. And sickness and death is, an equalizer of all peoples. So we get the setting. Then verses 48 through 50, we see the exchange between Jesus and this man. So the man comes to him, pleads with him to come down and heal his son because his son's about to die. And Jesus says, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you will not believe." And this contrasts the Samaritans. If you remember from earlier in this chapter, the Samaritans believed just because of Jesus' word and the woman's testimony and them seeing and hearing Jesus talk. But the Jews are demanding signs and wonders kind of deal. And just because you get a sign or a miracle does not mean that you're going to believe in Jesus. If you remember in the Old Testament, the Jews got countless signs. I mean, manna raining down from heaven, birds bringing them food in the wilderness, even more signs after that of just God saving them again and again from all this stuff that's happening. And they still, harden their hearts. In the wilderness, they built a false idol, like while Moses was up there getting the law from God. So signs and wonders does not equal faith, and we see that. And so Jesus is kind of calling out these Jews and saying, like, you are just wanting signs and wonders, and also contrasting them with the Samaritans that just believed out of the word. But the official isn't swayed by this. He's not seeing it as kind of like a reproach, like, oh, you're asking for a miracle. He just pleads with him again and says, look, my son, like, come down before my boy dies. He's an anxious father pleading for his child. And so Jesus says, go, your son will live. And this is interesting because it also tests the officer's faith. Jesus isn't just healing the son's physical body, but he's also strengthening the officer's spiritual health. Jesus doesn't go with the officer back home because that isn't going to seal the deal on this officer's faith. If he had come with him, the officer maybe would have been like, oh, well, he only can heal close by, not over 20 miles. But Jesus says, your son's healed. And that tests the officer's faith and also makes us realize that the spiritual faith and strength of someone is far more important than their physical strength and health. And finishing up, this is a short passage today, but it's pretty cool. Verses 51 through 54. So the officer is coming home and his servants run out to meet him, and they say that his boy is alive. And he goes, okay, so what time did he get better? And they say about 1 p.m. Your translation might say like about the 7th hour. And the officer realizes that was the same time that he was talking to Jesus. And Jesus said, go and your son will be healed. So this passage seems pretty straightforward, but there's some things that I want to draw our attention to. One, when his servants run out and say, your boy is still alive, he immediately asks, what time did he get better? So he believes his servants without seeing evidence that his boy is better. And his servants just said that the boy is alive, not that the boy is better. And so he takes it one step further and is like, okay, so he's healed. What time? And that's kind of significant just because it shows the officer's faith once again. And then the second thing is that this is like the next day, So the officer shows his faith in that he didn't rush home. He didn't, hop on the nearest horse or camel and race home to get there the same day to see if his boy was better. This is the next day that he's coming home. And so it shows he didn't rush. He had full faith that Jesus had healed his son and that he had no power over the situation. Finally, the last part of verse 53 says, so he himself believed along with his whole household. So his faith isn't just personal. He takes it one step further and spreads it to his entire household and shares what Jesus has done. And this would have been a pretty big deal. If he's an officer of King Herod, this might have made him, the laughingstock of the officers. Like, oh my goodness, do you believe this guy believing in a crazy guy that claims that he's the son of God? But no, like, he puts his faith and his household's faith in Jesus despite, the awkwardness that would have brought. The chapter ends with saying, now this was also the second sign Jesus performed after he came from Judea to Galilee. So this is the second sign in John that John records down. So in other gospels we see a bunch of other different signs that Jesus does. John just kind of does like big ones that he believes are important. And next week we're going to see a third sign, but I want us to remember the first sign that Jesus did was turn water into wine at a wedding celebration, and this one was saving a child from death. And so Jesus is sovereign over like the happiest occasion, a wedding, and the darkest occasion, death, and he has full power over both those things. And just seeing that contrast is really cool. And we have a savior that is in control, period, not just a little bit. So that's all I had today. I just love seeing Jesus's miracles of just healing sickness and raising people from the dead. It's just so cool. And we all know people that are suffering from illness, and our God doesn't change. Jesus is still the great physician, the ultimate healer. Just because he's in heaven doesn't mean that he has lost his power to save people. And I think that is incredibly important to remember, and just bring those requests to God. He's not too busy to take care of you. He wants to hear what you're going through, and he has the power to heal. And we have a personal relationship with the only one who can make everything perfect and everything right. So I just wanted you all to, realize God is sovereign, God is in control. I know it can get so scary in this life of just not knowing what's happening, but Jesus has got this. He does not need our help. But that is all of chapter 4. Like I said, we're gonna start chapter 5 next week. I will remember that I have a YouTube channel next week, but if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, possibly subscribe, and leave a comment about what you're studying the word today, or anything that you learned from this time together. And I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.